So as comic shops struggle under this new reality of forced shop closures and the publishers aren't able to send out comics and Diamond isn't paying people, people are looking around for solutions. So one solution is being promoted by Bleeding Cool and then been picked up by a couple other of the, let's just say, the usual suspects. I don't mean it that way, but a lot of people promoting this are kind of in alignment there, and they're pushing something called Comics Hub. So what is it, and can it help? Hey everybody, this is Perch. There's been some news today. I mean, everybody is trying to figure out a solution to this comic book problem, and unfortunately, there's different layers of the solution. One just core, kind of untenable fact that is, people have to get around is that local states, governments, cities, everybody else are ordering kind of mandated stay-at-home policies that make people unable to go to a shop, make shops unable to stay open. As much as comics mean to me, they're not considered an essential business. So them being able to stay open, and then the logistics of them being able to get shipments, process it, put it in, even if the business isn't open, being able to kind of mail things out to people, and so on. That is a hard fact that really none of these current solutions can solve. So a lot of the people who are trying to figure out kind of what to do, they have to either look at this of, is this a long-term, short-term, medium-term kind of plan? And sometimes it's easy to get things mixed up. And in the spirit of trying to get big headlines, you might have a Bleeding Cool article that says, today the comic shop direct market was saved. Well, it was not saved. That's hyperbole, to put it mildly. But there is a solution being offered. Unfortunately, the solution being offered is slightly confusing, and the article does nothing to really give you any information. It just kind of says, hey, there's some stuff here, and you'll be able to get comics somehow, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really put the information out. So a couple shops have gone to wanting to explain what is going on. In particular, Big Bang Comics is running threads talking about this service. Unfortunately, it's not doing a great job of answering the questions easily because it's skipping this middle logistical problem of what really can happen. And again, as long as you look at this as, here's an option, but it is not necessarily how all of comics get on track again, then you're fine. You can look at this thing reasonably. The other problem is that Big Bang, not the Big Bang Comics in the US, but the Big Bang account, it has blocked like half of everyone. This is a Dublin-based comic shop, and had pretty outspoken. These are some of the guys that were on Facebook groups talking about wanting to beat somebody up, and they tend to be tough guys, at least on the computer screen, and they block a lot of people. So be that as it may, let's talk about the actual solution. So first off, it's worth noting, what is Comics Hub? And Comics Hub is basically, it's a point of sale system. You don't call it a POS system. That's a bad way to describe any point of sale. POS is not what you want to do. But Comics Hub is basically, this idea is that it does a couple things. Its initial core service was that comic book retailers, shops, would sign up for the service, and it's a paid subscription service that they would then be able to input, and after paying, they would input in data into the Comics Hub database. The Comics Hub database would then point people to shops. Like, so let's say you are looking for a specific comic, you're looking for a copy of something very specific, you're looking for X-Force number 6. I had somebody asking about that earlier today, and you want to find it, the Rick Remender version. Okay, well, if you type it into this app, and the shops have said, we've got it in stock, they're managing their inventory, then it would pop up in the database. Somebody could then contact the comic shop, say, hey, I want that X-Force number 6. Comic shop could then process the payment and mail it out. That's the idea. It's kind of connecting people to comics. And it's really designed to kind of eliminate borders so that people can find what they're looking for in a nice, easy way. There are a couple obstacles to this. Not insurmountable obstacles. It's just this data does not get into Comics Hub magically. You have to actually then, as a retailer, invest time into it and some money, but mostly time is probably the big issue. And like any kind of point of sale service, it requires the crowd to actually input things in and aggregate the data. It's only as good as kind of the information that goes in. So you'll find some regions that might jump on and do it, and others that won't. The value proposition for a retailer is that, hey, I can get customers who don't know where my store is, don't even know my store exists. I'm going to get more people inbound coming into my shop. That's a good idea in theory, and it can work. But again, the comics industry, the direct market in general, is very dispersed with a lot of people with varying levels of inventory control, management, having things into a computer, time. I mean, this isn't a profit-rich business, so a lot of people do not have big databases of their comics. They have long boxes, and they've long since forgotten what is in the long box. Should they put things into a database? Sure. That would be delightful, but that's not exactly how things go. So basically, what's now happened is that Comics Hub is expanding kind of a system to say when you pre-order a book, like a new comic, you can certainly get that comic delivered to you, but you will get kind of an instant digital version as well. So the idea is this has been one of the blocks to digital. I've talked about this before, where you get the digital immediately. You can start reading if you want to, and then the comic eventually comes into the mail for you. And you get your physical copy as well. That's not a bad plan. It's reasonable, but of course, there's a lot of logistics that were that will have to fall into place. So these require, one, the comic retailers do have to sign up for this and pay. So it's another bill that comic shops need to have. Two, while it does allow comics to be sold, but in theory, there's still a problem there because since comics can't ship out physically, there's still this gap of when those fulfillments would actually occur and what life will look like after things get back up and rolling. And then the other kind of aspect to all this is how does it tie together kind of how comics get mailed out from shops? And then how do those get into hands? And some will do better than others. And in theory, if a couple of the big guys get signed up for this, it could create some challenges for the big guys who can invest the time and the money into updating this POS system. That could be an issue. So is this helpful? Maybe. What is, sorry, I haven't mentioned it yet. It also does require the publishers all agree to provide digital copies and get linked into all this and do it all themselves. Why the publishers would necessarily need to do anything with Comics Hub as opposed to just offering it directly? I mean, the comic shops, comic publishers could very, very easily just offer the shops wherever you're getting the comic from. Hey, there's a digital code, so go ahead and take the orders from your customers, and you get this digital code to pass along for them, and here's how you manage it, or whatever else. I mean, one way or another, DC, Marvel, the big publishers are going to be linking these two things together. How they do that is a good question. Do they need Comics Hub for it? Well, no, not really, and it's. There's the big question about why that would even matter, why the point of sale system would matter, and does that cause the whole thing to tip over? Because if comic shops aren't investing and putting in their data into this whole thing, then there's very little point. This is just kind of getting things from point A to point B. Very much like Marvel a long time ago didn't really have a digital strategy. There wasn't a clear dominator, so they're just letting anyone who wanted to make an app and wanted to pay them $100,000 come in and just start offering digital comics, and then there could be a recoupable back behind the scenes. And they waited for things to shake out, and eventually we got Marvel Unlimited and Comixology out of the mix, and we are where we are. So a couple kind of fact points, because the Bleeding Cool article is written terribly. God help everybody if Rich Johnson ever gets an editor. But basically, one, no, this doesn't immediately apply to everything. Two, comic shops do have to sign up, pay, and get into this this model before they can start offering comics, and some will, some may not. Three, it's going to require the publishers actually do get on board and get on board exclusively with Comics Hub versus some other solution. My bet is the publishers are going to just kind of offer this out blanket for anyone who buys a comic, wherever they buy it from, and then the Comics Hub aspect of this kind of becomes irrelevant. That's my belief, but maybe not. And Two, it's a little bit, or so two, I don't know, I'm on some number, 6, 8, who knows? I've lost track. The Big Bang being so aggressive in pushing this is a little bit dodgy because, again, this isn't a comic shop that's beloved by other shops. They definitely suck up, and they're liked by a lot of comic creators. Certainly, I have no problems with that. Big Bang has always been very good about not going after creators, but they haven't always been as nice to other shops, and they don't have the best reputation in the industry. And then, by the way, this is in my opinion. You can search in Google and see these comments come up, and you can see some of the brawls and various things happen. This isn't a Twitter, social media, angry people who are fans of cyberprog kind of thing. It's just it's data and it's facts, and it's been in existence for 10 years or more, long before any of this current hyphen gate nonsense. This has been a deal. So will this go anywhere? Well, it's a good start. So, I mean, any idea is a good idea at this current moment to just get things moving. Is this idea likely to last? Probably not. This isn't the panacea that's going to make everything work. It is showing one aspect of this. The one piece to pull out of this is it's an indication that the publishers, if the Comics Hub is to be believed, and there's no reason why they're not, it is an indication that the publishers are going to look to align digital and physical, and maybe just do something that we've all been expecting for a while, which is if you buy one, you get the other, and we're going to use this to try and encourage usage growth and readership. And we're not going to try and double charge, or we're going to tie them more tightly together than they have in the past. Yes, there's been digital codes for comics for some time. People are like, wait, there's been digital codes. Yes, there have, but it's been a loose program. It hasn't been a tightly knit program. And it also hasn't been in this realm of, hey, you can buy it online, you can get your digital code today, you can start reading in 2 minutes, and then the physical copy will get to you when it gets to you. That is a good idea, and I think that is probably a way forward for a lot of this. It's just the fact that the comic shops themselves have been dispersed in a bunch of different areas doesn't help this plan from really, coming to full fruition. So are there some things I missed in this press release and this announcement? Undoubtedly there are. More details will come out. It's one of those cases where they're like, we're doing a big initiative and we're going to make it and we're going to clear up some things, but there's a ton of unknowns until we see something like Marvel or DC saying, yep, we're supporting it in this way, absolutely, instead of we've been talking to, quote unquote, some publishers, and there's some things that were left to be figured out, and we'll make some more announcements soon, and when things get back to, quote unquote, normal, I mean, people have to get their heads around the fact that there isn't going to be a quote unquote normal for a long time. Even after shops can be reopened, many of them will be gone. Kind of this whole, what happens with Diamond is a whole other question. And so there's a lot of stuff in here that still has to be figured out. And so it's not as simple as, hey, everything is fixed now. No, it's not going to be like that. Anyway, there you have it. A few details. I will stay on top of this, as well as other efforts that are going on in the comics industry, give you my take on what will work, what won't, and where things are veering in the right direction. Hopefully we can all get back to a better place very, very soon. Have any questions? Note them below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.